Yep. Boom. Oh, fast.
Boom.
Fast. Aloha. Aloha, gang. Aloha.
What up? What's up, everybody?
Yep.
Welcome to Facebook Live with Mel Raposo. Today's with Facebook Live with Mel Raposo. Facebook Live with Mel and Charlie. But it's been a long, long, long day.
Yep. It's one of those
How
things,
you
man.
how you feeling, bro? How you feeling, man?
Whew. Man, just I was getting a little bit. I just took some hydroxyzine. I was getting. It's equivalent to Benadryl. I was
Oh,
getting a
you
little.
just scared me. You just scared me right now. Hydroxy. I'm like, what the heck is that?
No, it's not hydroxychloroquine. It's hydroxyzine, and
Okay.
it's equivalent to Benadryl, and that's prescribed. It's not over the counter like regular Benadryl. And when I get when I get hives, something I ate today, I don't know what it was. Felt my tongue swelling up. So I took them, but then I took them so late. I said like, "Bleh," one of
Uh oh.
those.
Uh oh. Well, I hope you feel better, man. Hope you feel better.
Well, if you see me in a frozen state, that's just the camera is frozen. Either that or I'm sleeping, sitting up.
Well, if you guys all of a sudden see the screen change to the speaker, which tonight we have Angela Keen from Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers, you'll know why. Then I gotta call Steph and tell him go wake up Charlie. Yeah, it's probably stronger than Benadryl, right? If it's prescription.
Yeah, it's prescribed, and the thing works relatively fast. Works relatively.
Wow.
So it's one of those that you gotta observe the warning label, and that is do not operate machinery. Do not drive when you take it because this thing for me actually works within 15 minutes, and you feel them coming on relatively fast. You go like, oh
Well, does it, can you drink coffee with that thing or what?
no, no,
Oh boy. Oh boy.
because
Okay, well, we're gonna wing this one, bro. We're gonna wing it. We're gonna and if we get some strange comments from Charles, then it's because of the Hydra
yeah,
whatever.
hydrochloroquine.
Ooh, well, I don't know. I have a feeling when uh, Angela comes on, I think I'm sure she has a lot to say. Let's just put it that way. I bet she has a lot to say.
Well, I do want to send a shout out to my good friend. He called me late last night. Uh, he lives on uh, Lanai, and he got medevac to Queens last night. But he's doing good. He's doing good because he had difficulty. His oxygen level is very low. So they
COVID,
medevac. Yeah,
COVID
COVID.
patient. Oh man, damn.
Um, he said all he told me was, "Oh, bro, I don't know what happened." And you see that island, you don't know where it comes from. You don't know at what angle it's coming at you. He said for the most part, he was distanced everything, but he could have touched something that was the surface was dirty, and he never be extra cautious. And he said, he felt body aches, but that thing was just slowly coming on. And good thing I guess they give the community those oximeters, that the one you put on your
Hmm.
finger, and his oxygen level was like, I guess it was below 90 already. So
Folks, that's why this virus. It's just you just don't know. You never know. And
yep,
today we went to Joe and I and my partner at work went to Burger King a Taco Bell to get a salad. They got really healthy taco salads. I think it's healthy anyway. And as I paid the person with cash, and he's giving me the money back, before it just you don't think about those things. Right? And today I'm thinking like, whoa, who gave that money? The ones that I'm getting back. Who that person could have been? He could have sneezed or coughed on this money. And it's something like that where something as simple as that. Of course, I put the money in my wallet and I immediately use the hand sanitizer to disinfect. But how many people really do that? And it's
Mhm.
just there's just too many different ways to catch this thing.
Yep.
And we gotta. Oh, please share, please share. Somebody saying, see, I share, share, share. We get Angela Keen tonight, so it'll be a very informative tonight with what's going on, not only with the quarantine breakers, but also she's been working hard with the legislature, with the administration, with the HTA, with everybody. So she'll be making some announcements tonight. Hopefully, enlighten us on what's going on. We did see the press release today, which kind of really frustrated me somewhat because they had the blessing of that new 10,000 test a day lab. All of a sudden, out of the blue, like you said, Charlie, poof, when they
Yep.
constantly told us that we couldn't test everybody
Mhm.
because there was a shortage of tests. All of a sudden, poof, we have a lab and it can do 10,000 tests a day. And, it's going to be, I missed the part in the press conference or in the blessing about the cost. And then I saw on the news tonight, it's $135 a test. Here we go again. How many of our local people can afford $135 a test? And they're not trusted partner certified yet, but he said that it's going to be very soon, so we can use that test, that facility at the airport, Honolulu. It's supposed Honolulu, nothing on Kauai, to test, and you get your results back in 3 hours. It's a PCR test. It's the gold standard. It is the test, and they're going to be able to process that in 3 hours. Now, the reason I think and they're partnering with the Hawaii Kidney Foundation is a great charity, huge. I mean, an awesome charity. And again, the private sector, nonprofit sector steps up to help. But the underlying motivation, as I've heard anyway, was that they're working with the Japan government to allow, because we know, right, the Japanese tourists can come here on a test and get away from quarantine, but when they go back, they got to go to quarantine. Well, he said the governor's working really hard with the leadership in Japan to allow this test so they can go back home and not quarantine. And I believe that's the motivation for the van or this big lab, so we can get our Japanese tourists a test. But I don't think the Japan government is going to allow that. I mean, they've made it very clear that if you travel away from Japan, you come home, you will get quarantined. So, but it was just it was just something to see. Where was this test 3 months ago, 4 months ago? All of a sudden, boom, 10,000 a day, 10,000 a day with results in 3 hours. But we're not using that for visitors coming in. Remember that the reason why we couldn't test the visitors every day as they arrived when they came in was because we didn't have tests. Well, now we do. If we can do 10,000 a day, we're nowhere near 10,000 a day visitors arriving. So there's more than enough capacity to test our visitors as they come in. And then he said they're spending $300,000 of CARES money. They made these little cards to tell the visitors that they're gonna hire people to go out and pass out these cards to everybody. And it's a nice little postcard size that says wear your mask, social distance, blah blah blah. And you also get a wallet size card. So if you don't want to carry the big one around, you can take this wallet size card in case you forget that you need to wear a mask. $300,000 going to be spent on that in Honolulu. So I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but it's not nitpicking. It's, guys, the issue right now is people coming in from the mainland carrying the virus and not being detected. That's the issue. That's the root of the problem, right? That's what the virus coming in. We need to stop that. They're in reactive mode, right? Okay, we know that they're gonna come in. We know that some gonna be positive, so let's give them cards to let them know that they gotta wear a mask. To me, that's not solving the problem. They're solving a symptom, but it's not solving the problem. And now we get 10,000 tests a day on Oahu. Let's test all these guys coming in, every single one of them. Anyway, we'll see.
Well, you know,
Yeah, 300,000.
one has to ask where'd they get the 10,000 a day? Whoever is doing it, if you just do the math at $135 per, you're talking about 1,350,000 a day.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot of money, man. And I like I said, if they're gonna do 10,000 a day, uh, I just don't see too many local people, a family of five that wants to come visit grandma and grandpa in Kauai. You can spend $135 a test to, in addition to your airfare to come. Um, no, I mean it's just it's so unfair, so unfair. It's just
Well, look at it this way: if they're doing it for our Japan visitors, right? So they can get
well,
tested.
that's my assumption. I that I could be completely off base, but that's what I got out of that was that they're working on this arrangement with Japan, but he's saying it's going to be for the residents.
Well, if they took it at that route, and say, for instance, you get 10,000 Japan visitors come every day,
That's what I mean. And no, we're not going to be near that.
you're
You
gonna have
know,
to force the test them because it's for them, right?
yeah, yeah,
No.
yeah. It's just yeah. I don't know. I don't know. We haven't heard much anyway. We haven't heard much from anybody. We heard, there was a grand celebration today with the blessing of that lab, but that was pretty much it. I know Mayor Caldwell is very concerned. He was begging and pleading with the people to get the numbers down so they can go to tier 3. I mean, Charlie, why would anyone even be thinking about tier 3 when your cases are rising again, back in the triple digits, and we telling the people, it's up to you guys, okay? We got to get below 50 cases a day in Honolulu, which means right now we're at I forget what he said, we're at 60 or 70 or whatever it is. So that means tomorrow we gotta be down to 30 or 20. Listen, Mayor, in case you haven't realized this yet, it's not in your control. The virus is here. It's not like you can. We have the direct. Yes, we can do things to make it safe, but this virus has a mind of its own. And we talked about it today earlier, Charlie. We tried to get Tommy Silva on today about this whole tier system that Honolulu has, where you put everybody in the same basket, and you either open everybody up or you close everybody down. When we're not looking at individual businesses, which could actually operate safely with or without COVID. Their business, you may be able to operate safely. You don't have person-to-person contact. You may be in manufacturing, or you may be in a service industry that you don't come in contact with the public. And why would you be prevented from opening if you can do all of that safely? And that's what bothers me the most about this whole thing. It's they put everybody together, and then you complain about why the economy cannot rebound. Well, because you're not letting them. And if you have a business that's safe and you can prove that, then you should be able to operate and keep that part of the local economy moving. But
Well, it all boils down to the full scope of your testing. One, you have the testing itself. Two, you're prepared to scramble an investigative team should the test yield results unfavorably, which is by way of an infection, right? Detection of infection.
mhm.
So you have to have an investigative team ready to hit the ground running and try to get ahead of it. Okay, and that is what I have been saying for quite a while. Doesn't seem like because they talk in relatively small numbers. Yeah, they talk they can handle, but we know for a fact that anything can go sideways on us and can go from small to large. You just gotta be ready. And to me, I think they haven't addressed the issue totally yet. If they do, Because if they feel just by closing up every single business, this third shutdown will just ruin Honolulu's economy, plain and simple, period. I don't care what
which
anybody.
which in turn affects the outer islands. You know,
Yes.
it affects us. I mean, when the Honolulu businesses shut down, many of our local businesses here rely on the business on Oahu. So, you know, the trickling effect is there, and it is kind of scary. And I just, you know, we're relying too much on hope. We're relying too much on hoping that the numbers drop, rather than focus on doing something that will drop the numbers, and stop relying on or blaming the public. You know, do things. You know, increase your testing capacity, and do what you got to do to get to the root of the problem, which is the virus itself. Uh, you know, people getting sick is a byproduct of the virus. You know, the root problem is the virus, and you stop and isolate the virus. How? Testing, isolation, contact tracing. That's what you do. That's how you do it. And the focus should be on that, and not worrying about getting to the next tier to open up.
Hmm.
That is simply the priority right now.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts. Fasten your seatbelts, because we got Angela Keen, Firecracker. Oh, jeez. That's you, Charlie. I thought it was her, but I don't see her. Where did she go? Oh, it says joining. Angela. Angela. So I have a button that says admit or refuse, and I click the admit button, and it's showing that she is joining, but she's not joining.
Well, it only shows two participants, you and I, right now.
Yeah, I'm showing her in on my screen. I can see the. Um, hang on here, Charlie. I keep forgetting to do this here. Boom.
Okay,
Now I
and
click the. Yeah.
admit Angela Key. Yep.
It says she's joining.
Yeah. She's in the waiting
And,
room.
yeah, but she's not coming in. I don't know why. Let me text her real quick and tell her she needs to go out and come back. It says preparing meeting.
Oh well. Also, we are waiting to see who our next president of the United States, one way or the other. It's very, very difficult.
Open the door, guy. I tried. I tried. Okay, she did go out. She's gonna come back in right now. Yeah, and while we await patiently, it's gonna be a while for that presidential race. Again, no political comments, please. No bashing. No none of that, because this is not the platform. But yes, in fact, I was watching today. Nevada came out and said they're not gonna report their final count till the 12th. The 12th. Screen is stuck. Oh my goodness.
It's probably stuck on her side. Huh?
Oh yeah, I mean ours is fine. Try restart your device. There we go. Sorry people. So sorry. So sorry. Yeah, I mean it's good on our side. I mean I'm showing us good on our side. So but yeah, so I don't know. I mean there's still some states in limbo, and they are doing their best, I guess. It just baffles me how it takes so long to count votes. Jeez. But it is what it is. At some point, it will be over. And again, as we've stated in the last few nights, everybody gotta move on, regardless of who wins. And right now, I mean, seriously, we had discussion today at work about this, and I said, right now the issues that Hawaii faces is COVID related. It's COVID, and the people that make the decisions to keep us safe, it's not Washington D.C. It's here, right here in Honolulu, Hawaii, at the big white building, the square white building right there on Punch Bowl, and that is where our attention should be. That's where I'm not sure what's going on with. She said she's restarting her device. So anyway, we must focus on the things that we have control over, which is Hawaii, and that's what we got to really be focusing on as our decision makers meet every day. Yes, the presidential race, yes, Congress, all of that stuff that have implications for us, but going forward. But right now, as it relates to COVID, which is our priority, the decisions to take care of us it lies with the governor and the Department of Health, and with HAIMA, our mayors, our councils, and that's where the focus should really be. Oh, let's go. I wonder what's going on. I wonder her whatever her device, her phone or whatever, probably ran out of gas. She must be on that thing preparing meeting. I don't know why it's doing that.
Maybe she's got the wrong using the wrong.
No, because she came into our waiting room.
Yeah, but she could have come in on she could have come on a different code. But it's not. Then
it would have told her. Then it would have told her that no one is in. The host is not available. So I'm not sure. Hang on.
Yes, Uncle Charlie is going to take a nap.
Okay. Well, we're probably going to have to. I don't know because she came on and I hit the admit and then it didn't go any further. So I'm not sure. Hang on, everybody. I would ask Charlie to tell a joke, but I don't know if that's safe to do right now.
Well,
Yeah, it says unable. She screenshot. She said, "Make sure you're connected to the internet and your connection to Zoom is not blocked." So error. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with her. Probably the government probably blocked her.
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell everybody a joke while you figure that out.
Okay, real quick. Go ahead, bro.
The guy wakes up, and his son tells his dad, "Daddy, I went outside to go get the paper, and I look up, and there was a gorilla in the mango tree." So the father said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, Daddy, young gorilla." Said, "Oh, there she is."
Okay, here. Okay, go ahead, finish your story.
Anyway, gorilla sitting in a mango tree. So what? I better call Mel Raposo's gorilla removal service. So Mel came over and he told him, "Okay, this is what we gotta do. I'm gonna get your gorilla out of the tree." So Mel gets on shotgun, he gets on handcuff, and he's on Doberman pincher. So Mel tells the homeowner, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do. I go in up there, I'm going to try handcuff the gorilla. And I'm going to try to push him out of the tree. And the Doberman pincher is trained that when a gorilla hit the ground, going to bite the gorilla in the nuggets." So they said, "Okay." But what is the shotgun for? Okay. If the gorilla push me out of the tree, shoot the dog. Okay. Okay. That was my gorilla.
Oh, welcome, Angela. People were accusing me of blocking you. That's why you couldn't come in. But I know that's absolutely not.
I'm the queen. You cannot.
Yeah.
I see. Jeez. Is that from one of your former pageants, your prior pageants?
No, it's from one of our members on Maui, Carol Ann. Carol Ann, thank you. I am now officially queen of quarantine.
Quarantine queen.
That's
all right.
Nice.
So, how you been, Angela King?
I am doing good. How are you guys? Sorry, I tried my tablet. I had it all set up and everything, and I don't know what happened. That's strange because it worked before, so I had to use my cell phone.
we had you in the waiting. We had you in the waiting room, and then it wouldn't let you in. I don't know why. But anyway, it's good to have you here. We've been seeing you a lot on the news. We've been seeing a lot of you on the news and being very relevant in this discussion involving COVID with the state and all the partners. So it's been a fight, and it continues to be a fight, right?
Every day something new is popping up, isn't it? Something.
Yeah. Today, big announcement, big blessing, 10,000 tests a day lab on Oahu. I'm sure you, I was surprised you weren't there. I figured you'd be there at the press conference as one of the partners that forced them to do some additional testing. But what, did you see that coming? Did you know what is the motivation for that? What is the true plan? Do you have any idea?
I kind of know. I haven't talked about this publicly, but I'm actually have been asked to have some involvement in the future vaccine. And this lab is the only one of its kind in the world. It's the only mobile lab in the world. I don't know if that part of it made the headlines, but the reason why I know about this is I've been requested by the Department of Health and a marketing firm called Olomana Loomis ISC, and I've worked with Olomana when I used to work at Shriners. And they've been contracted to work on some of the fact-finding and checking the barometer of how people feel about the vaccine as we move closer to the vaccine. And that particular mobile lab may be part of that. I can't say for certain, but it may be part of that. It's the only one of its kind in the world, and I see nothing but good things. Now, just as I was getting ready to come on here, I received a message from one of our members asking if it's actually a trusted partner of the state. So it's highly possible it hasn't been cleared yet. I don't know. But yeah, it could prove to be something very valuable, especially on Oahu, where you've got some of these cluster communities. For example, Pacific Islander community, where they had a cluster, the biggest cluster that we've had so far, near KPT and those areas, if people are familiar with Kuhio Park Terrace. So that cluster was there. There's multi-generational families living in a small unit. And then they don't have transportation, so how are they supposed to get to a lab? And really the easy way to do it would be to bring a mobile lab to them so that they're not getting out into the community. So I see it as a great value and a great thing. That's pretty much all I know about it. But yeah, it would be nice that if it was a trusted partner of the state.
Yeah, they today they said it wasn't yet, but it was. They had received some assurances that it would be. The other thing was, although it's a mobile lab, it sounded like they didn't intend for it to go out. It would stay there mostly for the travelers, the airline travelers. But he did say it was possible that you could mobilize that. It just seems like it'd be a huge task. But And then they talked about the future planning of possibly using that as the mobile vaccination unit. They said in order for the vaccine to work here in Hawaii, we would need 60% of the population to be vaccinated. That's what they mentioned today. But, you know, I think, Angela, right now, we were talking about this before you came on, that the real need right now is testing. And the fact the vaccine, you know, by the time we see the vaccine and you know, on the positive side, in the best case scenario, we're talking still probably next year at some point. While it may be ready, sooner than
you think. I'm thinking probably. So I'm participating in some of this work December, January, maybe January, February. It's just in the conception phase right now. And I think they're really trying to figure out who's going to accept it. And of course, there's a whole rollout plan. So first responders are first, and, you know, then you've got law enforcement, first responders, physicians, providers, kupuna in the care homes, which is a huge risk for anything like influenza or COVID. And really, I think the beginning part is just working to try to figure out how they're going to roll it out, who's going to accept it, who's willing to take it, how safe is it going to be. And we're already talking about how will it be stored. So some of it has to be, some of the immunizations or the vaccine that they're testing right now has to be stored at above the freezer level, like dry ice. So it's going to be interesting. Will it be in a 2-step? Will it be a 1-step? You know, all those kinds of things. But testing is a big need. And I think that the state experts, epidemiologists in that, have weighed the difference between, do we spend money on testing and resources for travelers coming in, or do we do those resources for the locals? And from what I understand, yesterday there was testing on the Big Island, on Hawaii Island, and there were some issues because apparently a big plane was coming in full of passengers, and they had to stop down because they didn't have enough resources at the airport, that they had to stop down with the citizens on Hawaii Island. There were a big long line of cars waiting, and they stopped down so that they could go respond to the airport. Well, that's not right, you know? So I connected with one of my favorite epidemiologists, who shall remain unnamed. And he explained that there's greater plans for testing and that sort of thing. And the epidemiologists and the experts are pressing the state that this testing needs to happen. So the bug's been placed in their ear. Let's just hope that they listen and they take action. That's what I hope, because we really do need more testing.
You know, there seems to be this, I guess, void right now that I kind of wanted to ask you. When we first had the first flu and vaccine, when it arrived in Hawaii, you know, what steps were taken on the rollout on how they vaccinated the people back then? Do you think they're doing it the same way with this group, or did way back when they first had a vaccine for the flu, say for instance, they may have gone by neighborhoods in certain parts of the state? Has that changed according to what they try to roll out now, do you think?
Yeah, and they're being very methodical about it to make sure that those at the highest risk and the first responders come first. That's the way it's going to happen. And it's interesting that you mentioned this, because I'm a Hawaiian history buff. I love reading about Hawaiian history, and I read this whole thing on Queen Liliuokalani and how and why she felt so connected to orphans that were Kanaka Maoli. And part of that is all connected to this whole thing about pandemics, and pandemics wiping out the adults and the children being left behind, and those children, those keiki, being hanai'd. And that's how all the whole hanai thing happened. And then Queen Liliuokalani felt that it was important for the vaccines to come to help save her people, which I think is just so, I have chicken skin. It's just so intriguing and interesting. So that is part of our history, whereas other parts, you know, on the continent, there's a whole different feeling to it of, is it safe? Is it not safe? You know, there's the anti-vaxxer movement, you know, there's all that, but it's just so different here. I mean, it's the reason why Queen Liliuokalani set up her trust to help destitute and orphan children. And all of that happened because of pandemics.
Now, if taking, for instance, we've got the situation going on at KPT, like you've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked to, because you have a prime area to actually have a quarantine, and because there's only two ways into KPT, one on the Mauka side as you're coming from School Street or Middle Street, and then there's the other side that's actually heading down towards the airport. That's the second entrance into KPT, right? So if you block both of those entrances off, you basically create a quarantine where you keep those people infected inside basically the KPT zone. Have they thought about doing that to really take a look and see where this cluster is, especially if it's breaking out in these kind of areas? Because I think those are the advantages that you can use an environmental protocol to block off areas that will be more advantageous into controlling the virus. Don't you think?
Well, the problem is though, is that people come and stay with relatives, even though they're not supposed to there. And so you've got more exposure in these clusters. So what they've done was they were taking some of the families out because they can't stop congregating and they don't want it to spread. And because they are Pacific Islanders and they're at a higher risk, there's this whole issue of it spreading, and you don't want it to spread through the housing. So what they were doing was they were quarantining them in the quarantine hotels, or quarantine hotel that the city purchased. I think that's what they decided to do when all of that happened. I'm not so sure I think the numbers have calmed down now. They've got a handle on it, but you know, there's a million ways to do it, and it's probably one of the ideas. I think they didn't want it to go through all of the housing because of the risk to all the elderly and those with high risk, you know, multiple health conditions.
Do you think they're, you know, from what we've been noticing and what's been reported, especially with our Pacific Islanders, do you think there's somebody that's actually teaching them the risk of it, you know, and you know, the potential of it coming back? Is somebody working with them to prevent that?
Yes. Especially the Pacific Island community. There's been a great effort, and I know this from speaking to the epidemiologists behind the scenes, that this was a great effort. The effort that they missed in educating was on Lanai. Because that was related to a Pacific Islander community working and living on Lanai. And it was through a funeral that some of the spreading started, and then they worked together, and then from there it went. That was a big sigh among some of the experts in the medical community to say, okay, we reached the folks on Oahu, but did we reach the folks on Lanai? No, they didn't. And so now this great effort is happening to stop the spread and to educate Lanai, because they are so isolated. They may not be watching television. You know, there has to be other ways of sharing the message in their language, in their, you know, their media, whatever they're using, whether it's Facebook or groups or whatnot, or community leaders, or even the hotel or their employers. It should have been done. Big no.
Well, I mean, and it's not limited to those communities. I mean, look at OCCC.
No.
OCCC,
Yeah.
huge outbreak. You know, over 300. We find out on Facebook. We haven't heard this because they haven't released it, but H Power is another huge cluster going on right now.
I've been hearing about it. Received some messages.
They're not releasing that information, and it's, you know, this is people that are know or work there that are saying, they had 17 day before yesterday, 20 yesterday, but no one's saying anything about it. And I think that's the frustration is, it is what it
so
is.
Bad.
That's not right for them to not disclose. Again, they're minimizing this thing, and people are wondering, how the hell can you get 156 cases all of a sudden? Well, it's not hard when you get clusters.
Right.
I did want to talk about the testing real quick because they're charging $135 a test. They're going to charge $135 a test at that airport lab that they just dedicated or blessed today. And how many people are going to take that? How many people can afford to pay $135 a test? Where, that testing should be free. Testing should be manageable. So we're normal people that live in communities. Yeah. And I think, again, the focus, I believe, is really on the traveler and not the local residents. And I think that's sad. You're not going to get the testing that you desire if, in fact, you want to truly help the residents. But the Mayor Caldwell said, it'll once they get accepted by the Trusted Partner Program, then inter-island residents can use that to get their tests to go to counties like Kauai where there's a quarantine unless you have a test, and the results will come back in 3 hours. And he said, and this is where I earlier I talked about the focus on the Japan tourists, is because he said, we know international travelers like the Japan tourists, they got to come 3 hours early. So it'll be perfect for them. They can take their tests, get the results before they get on the plane. And when they get back to Japan, well, I don't know what news Caldwell watches, but Japan is not taking away the quarantine with a test. Not yet. But apparently the governor is working really, really hard to allow that to happen, to encourage more Japanese tourists to come to Hawaii. That's what I got out of today's press conference, or blessing.
Interesting. Well, there have been some developments too on the side of tourism. So myself and Dr. DeWolf Miller actually visited with, we set up a meeting with John DeFries from HTA. And that was a great meeting. I was completely blown away. I just hope that he lives by what he said. That's what I hope, because he was definitely, he got the message. He definitely got the message.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I've heard his speeches in the last week or so, and he's again focusing on us, making sure we practice the safe measures, which we are, of course, we all know that. But the other thing is, we got to acknowledge and accept the fact that we have a lot of people coming into this state from the mainland with the virus. That's been proven here on Kauai. That's been proven here on Kauai enough times for our little population, with a 20% of the returning residents have taken our voluntary second test. Only 2% of the visitors have taken the test. Very small percentage. And even with that small percentage, we've identified, I don't know, 5, I guess, or 6 passenger travelers that have actually tested negative, but actually got the virus. They tested positive on the second test. So
the average I'm told is about 1 traveler per 1,000 travelers. And that's one too many, right? It's one too many. What my reason to call the meeting with him was when they did that initial press conference at the airport, and they said they were opening travel to Japan. Right before everything kind of got underway, John got up there and he said, masks are the law of the land. He just got up and said it. And I asked him, why did you say that? Because that struck a chord with me. And he said, well, they went through this whole process of, he saw signs and messages that kind of planted a seed in his head. And he said to Governor, do you mind if I say something about masks? And he says, well, mask is a statewide mandate. And he goes, yeah, but I think people don't understand that, is what John said. And so governor said, go ahead. So John got up and he stood in front of the media and he said, there's a mask mandate statewide. If you don't know it, you know it now. It's the law of the land. And I told him, I said, you know, the kind of traveler that we have coming here is not the typical traveler that we have when we have the 35,000 coming per day to the state before pre-COVID. I said, the type of traveler that's coming are not the Hawaii lovers. These are the people who never travel, don't travel internationally, don't save their whole lives and work really hard and live in red states and believe in their civil rights. And when they hear that Hawaii, you have to wear a mask and you have to get a test and all this other stuff, they say, screw it, I'm coming anyway. It's cheap. I'm going to come. I'm going to prove my point. That's the kind of visitor that we have right now. That's the kind of visitor that when the Maui Kapu Breakers go out or Hawaii Island Kapu Breakers go out and they give away free masks or they tell people to put their masks on, that's when they get the finger, you know, the FUs and the expletives. And I don't have to test because I'm negative. And John agreed with me. And he, you know what he did? What really hit him was he got a message on his phone from a guy who left on his voicemail. He played it for me. He said, I want you to listen to this. This guy called John DeFries and bleep, 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 you bleep, 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 bleep. I'm not wearing no bleeping mask and bleep, 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 bleep. So he gets it. He gets it. He had it what happens to you guys and what happens to me. He got it. He got it. And so I said to him, you know, you guys have to have end-to-end marketing from the moment they get on the plane on the continent to the moment they land and they get to the hotel and they leave their hotel. Every single step has to have something about masks and caring for Hawaii and its people and why it's so important and why we take this seriously. He agreed with me. He said that marketing agency was working on some, I malama you, you malama me, blah, 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 something. And I said, hey, Kapu Breakers has it. Wear a mask, live aloha, right? Or no mask, no aloha. We just keep it pretty simple.
Well, you know, wearing a mask, I have to admit, you know, in talking to a lot of our friends who believe in the mask, for some reason, the message on masking, no matter how hard you play the message, it's not impactful. It doesn't have an impact. And the reason why I say that is I can still remember Francis Kamakawiwa Ole Jr., retired lieutenant, HPD. He won a national award when they had all these DUI deaths. That's why at one time had all these vehicles crash, crumpled up vehicles. And he stayed on the island, right? He won a national award for that because it was so dynamic. It had so much impact. I mean, some of the cars still had blood on them just to show people passing by, this is what, if you drive drunk, this is what can happen. And it had an impact. I think with masks, even though we know that's the frontline defense with this virus, in and of itself, it just doesn't have enough impact. And I don't know what it will take to get the message out to achieve that impact. That's the thing that I noticed, because you can tell a mask until hell freezes over. And people are going to go, yeah. I mean, what does it take? Do you have to show a body that didn't use a mask? And what was the end result? I mean, is that what you want? There's got to be something. And truthfully, Angela, I don't know what that answer is. But all I know, it doesn't hit as hard. And a lot of my
I told them, I said, it can't be the pretty waterfall with the hula halau and no mask and the guy walking down the path and the woman saying, we waited forever for you. We kept it so safe for you to come back. And then at the end, they say, oh, and please, when you leave your hotel, wear a mask. No, that's not hard hitting enough. It's not. Too cheesy.
The mask is the law. The mask is the law. Wearing a mask is the law of the land, and then you enforce it as such. I mean, I think that's that's the way it works. And without enforcement, that's all it is. It's really it's not going to work. And I today I drove around and I saw, gosh man, I saw helicopters now loaded up with tourists. I saw kayaks in the water with tourists. I saw it's coming back, and very few of them are wearing masks. And it's up to the tour operators to let them know. Number one, I would never go in a helicopter right now that you're right next to your and it's not always one family that's in a helicopter. It's usually a couple of families or a couple of couples or whatever it is. But it's just not being adhered to. And until we get enforcement, until people start posting on Facebook, I got fined $500 or $1,000. What a great way to treat your visitors, Hawaii. Let that go viral, and then people are going to understand that, man, they're not very friendly right now. We're not if you're not wearing your mask. If you're wearing your mask, we're perfect hosts. We're the perfect host. But if you're not wearing your mask, we're not. And, we care about our kupuna. We care about our people. And you should do the same if you're visiting. But it's not just the visitors as well. I mean, I saw in the news, Honolulu, they had all the Halloween parties, they broke up. Yeah, not one arrest. Yeah, but they're going balls. They're going balls to the wall. Yeah, the breakup of the party was, but the fact that no one gets arrested. And listen, I don't like to see local people getting arrested, but if you cannot get it through your thick skull that those big parties are dangerous, and we haven't seen the impact of Halloween yet. That'll come in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
They're going balls to the wall to prosecute the Surgeon General for walking around in a park, and they're making a big thing about it. But then on the same newscast, they're saying how they broke up 2 huge parties without masks, no social distancing, but no one got arrested.
That was because of us. That was the first time that we worked with HPD officially. So my friend, who's a police officer with HPD, Officer Ho'opi'i, wonderful guy, known for his work in the community. He said that I asked him, I said, we've got word of several big parties, some unofficial costume parades in Waikiki. We had a hotel in Waikiki that wanted to do a doggy costume contest and a big party with a silent disco and all kinds of stuff. And that was the day after Mayor Caldwell gets up and says, no parties, no parades, no nothing, just keep it at home, the very next day. So I reached out to Taylor. I said, who's running the COVID line on Halloween? He says, I am. So we made a deal. I said, can I send you what we have? Because we normally don't go after the, parties and stuff like that. But it was a special holiday, and there's risks involved. And we thought, well, if we're getting all of these reports, people care, so let's report them. So I sent all evening, when I received something via email or via message, I sent it off to them. They responded, and they went out. But as far as the arrests, I didn't see any arrests in the arrest log unless I go back and look, but I don't think there were many arrests.
Yeah, according to the news story, there were no arrests made. And again, it's not like how else are you going to enforce? I mean, how else do you expect people to not do the bad behavior if there is no punishment, I guess I should say, or no. We over here, it's the same thing. We got a very responsive KEMA office, the emergency management office. The chief of staff of the mayor, Sarah Blaine, she's kind of the point person. If I hear of a gathering that's being planned, I let her know. They go out and they contact the people and let them know that they will be arrested. But I think that when you lax on it's like DUIs, right, Charlie? You know this. I mean, if you go on a DUI campaign and you arrest a lot of DUIs, the numbers do drop. It doesn't stay down for long. People, after a while, people get complacent. But with COVID, we got a lot of laws and rules, but we're not enforcing, I think, enough. And we're blaming all the tourists, yes, because they are definitely guilty of not following the rules. But if you look at the numbers of local people that don't follow the rules, that still do the gathering, I heard over here, I think we had 3, maybe even more big Halloween parties here in pastures with tents and lights and away from everybody. I mean, what is that? What message are they not concerned? Are they not concerned? Do they think they're invincible?
We had one on the Big Island, and it was so frustrating. And the owner of the neighboring property contacted us well ahead of time. Our Big Island Kapu Breakers team was mobilized and ready to go. They talked to the officers. Some of my members, lead team members, went and drove by and took pictures, and it was so far off of the road in the middle of nowhere that it was really hard for them to get photos. And I didn't want to put their lives at risk. And this wasn't just any party; it was the Dead Man's Ball. I mean, this is places where they're known to do dangerous drugs and all kinds of crazy stuff. And when you do that, you let down your guard, you take off your mask, and you go have fun. And you shouldn't, not now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for Hawaii Island Police Department to ignore our pleas for help really is upsetting. It's unconscionable when you've got residents who butt up against that property, when you've got members of the community complaining and giving law enforcement a heads up, and they don't go out there. What gives? Why?
Mm-hmm. And that's why people don't call. That's why, people stop calling and stop reporting, because they know nothing's going to happen. And again, I mean, it's if we're going to beat COVID, everybody's going to have to do their part. And we've been saying this for months now. Everybody's got to do their part, from the individual to wearing the mask to organizations that are responsible for enforcement. It is what it is. I mean, I don't like enforcing. I don't like arresting people, but how else are you going to get the word across? How else are you going to get the message across? I saw Hawaiian Airlines had a new thing. Hey, if you're looking for a place to travel, Hawaii is open and waiting for you. Not one message of the restrictions in Hawaii. Not one message.
Today, it made me so mad. It mentioned Miami and Hawaii, right?
Yeah. Well, the one I saw was just Hawaii. There may have been another one, I don't know, but the one I saw was a beautiful picture, of course, a Hawaii picture, and it was a very inciting ad. Which if I was in a hot zone right now, I'd probably be making a reservation to come to Hawaii, and I wouldn't have a clue if, in fact, you had to wear a mask, because it doesn't say anything about restrictions on the ad.
There's nothing said about it. Nothing said about it. And that came out in an article not too long ago in the Star Advertiser. And I had shared that I had a friend who's a health executive who came back from a trip, lives here, came back from Spokane. He said there was no information there. If he wasn't connected to Hawaii, he would have no idea that he needed to wear a mask. He said there was no messaging anywhere. Nowhere. It's like planning for the grand reopening. I say it all the time. It's like planning for the grand reopening and not having any marketing messages,
I wanted to address one thing, and, law enforcement, having been there before, I think, and when I say this, it's sort of like a two-edged sword. You try to be compassionate and see the officer side too. I mean, they want to enforce, but sometimes they get left out in the cold, because when complaints are made, especially to the commission, they go straight after the jugular vein of these officers. So the officers get shell-shocked. I remember back, and Mel, you remember this, back during the 80s, during our time. Guys get stupid. I had no problem grabbing them by the throat and saying, you know what, you better settle down already. I didn't come here to start a fight, but you want to bring the fight on, then it's on. Nowadays, you cannot do that. And I understand you cannot do that. And yet, you're trying to reason with them to tell them, this is the law. And they give you a bunch of FUs. And then the courts rule that, as a law enforcement officer, you're expected that kind of abuse. I mean, they tell you straight up, you're expected to take that kind of abuse. And if you can't take it and you quit, how many people can you tell me would like to sign up for a job knowing that you're going to get called on pig, you're going to be called on SOB every single day? And so that's where the balance has to come in. How do, the department, it says, hey, we're going to go after this because we're looking at the long range goal, and that is bring everybody into compliance. So sometimes we got to go hard, make the message clear, and then, compliance will take over after a while by itself. It's almost like having, I mentioned this one time that we used to park a car and set up a light tower on this one road on Kahalui Beach Road coming into the town. And the DUIs coming from the bars on Lower Main Street would see that and said, "Oh, roadblock ahead." So then they'll turn and they'll go up by the stadium, and yet we'd be hiding by the stadium, and that's where we pick them up. Well, after a while, they caught on. They caught on. But the thing is, you would put your vehicles there as they call that a conspicuity factor. You'd be conspicuous. So people says, "Oh, we better slow down." Hopefully, that one day that when you take the car away, they would slow down on their own. They'd be educated. It's a visual education. And, that definitely tells you that the changing of the times, people just
Yeah.
don't care. They just don't care.
Well, and I think I know in Honolulu, there's just a lack of communication with the officers, especially the beat officers. They're one in how many, and they don't always get the message that was given to their superiors, and it's not communicated. And when you've got your little booklet with you and you know what the laws are for the basics, and you've got something new, that takes a bit of extra, It's all education. And now you may have heard that it came out in a Honolulu Police Commission meeting. And I heard it from a news reporter who called me and said, "Miss Keene, do you know?" No, I didn't know. But Mark Ladow from the Star Advertiser called me, and he said, he watched the police commission meeting, and they talked about a task force. And he said, HPD, Honolulu Police Department, is going to do quarantine checks. And I said, what?
Yep.
Yes. How that's being coordinated, I don't know. I should contact my close friend at the AG's office, whom we've worked with for the last 7 or 8 months, to say, hey, what's going on? Because in the past, they didn't play well in the sandbox together. The two agencies just didn't see eye to eye for whatever reason. So hopefully they're coming to some sort of ho'oponopono where they can work together, because that's a really good situation to have them as extra eyes and ears. And they're extra officers. So these are not your beat officers. These are guys that are maybe retired or want extra time. And so they're given those extra hours to go do that. I think that is appropriate, to take them away from crime. That shouldn't happen. But to have them, allow them the extra hours, I think is great.
I think they're going to use because Honolulu has the reserve program. They can have reserve officers in that position, especially to issue the kind of citations, because they have just as much powers as the regular officers. They have to do so many hours a month. They have to, their vehicles are fitted. They do carry firearms. The only thing is they don't get paid. They don't get paid, but they accrue the hours. And I know when they have construction zones that need extra manpower, they put the reserves out there, because it doesn't taxi the regular workforce. So I think that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And I hope it works out for them. Somebody asked the question, don't these officers have a briefing? Yes, every watch there's a briefing. Before the start of the watch, we go in there. The watch commander comes out through his sergeants, and they talk about everything under the sun that day. They talk about anything and everything. They even talk about warrants. So they do have briefings. A lot of times, when there's a miscommunication, you'll find it, and you probably heard about this, Angela, but you normally would find this amongst the rookies, because even though they're the young ones out of the block, sometimes they're so fragile, they forget just the small things, and they some things slip away. So then, and plus, because they're on this FTO program, when they hit the road, they just don't want to make mistakes, but they try so hard and they make mistakes. And so the senior officers have to tell them, hey, relax a little, you're doing okay, but you just got to remember these kind of things, especially when they have new rules thrown on them, like quarantine inspections thrown on them last minute. Because I'm pretty sure in recruit school, they went, quarantine inspection, what's that?
Yeah.
it wasn't taught to them in recruit school, So
Right.
But they're going to be
Yeah.
using CARES. They're going to be using CARES money. So according to the news tonight, they're going to be paying volunteer officers. In other words, people to come on their day off,
Yep.
and they'll get the spreadsheet every day, and they'll go out and hunt these guys down. And I think Kauai's been doing that from day one.
I know.
Kauai, and if you look at how many officers are being used, because yeah, I agree, you cannot take the officers off of the beat, the regular beat officers. There's no way they can be taken off the beat to go deal with quarantine or masks and all of that. Absolutely not. The service to the community is paramount for these guys, the beat cops. They got to take all the complaints. So yeah, absolutely not. But it's CARES money gonna run out the end of the year, and how long can they sustain this? But if you want it to work, you gotta go hard, and that's what Kauai does. And Kauai has sent back a lot of people at the airport. That extra layer that the county has put up at the Lihue airport has turned numerous. They don't write about it in a paper. It's not in any press release. They come in, they don't have a place to stay. They can't afford to go get a room and quarantine. They ride back on the plane and they're back. And that's a good thing because it saves money down the road. And that is the type of enforcement I would say. That's what it is. You're enforcing the quarantine law, not letting them go and go sleep at a beach. And no.
We all know that the 20 to 30% of the people who decide they're not going to take the test and they're going to quarantine instead just don't. I'm already starting to get calls about that. Hey, my neighbor just got back from a trip and they told me they took the wrong test, and so they're just going to stay home and quarantine. And then the next day they said, yep, I was looking out my window and my neighbor went ahead and left the house. Like, oh no. It's happening. And that's a problem. And I also told John DeFries at HTA, I said, you guys should have fought against allowing TBRs to open up, because now you've got visitors who may really have to quarantine, or who may be COVID positive, we don't know, and they're in the neighborhoods. You don't want them in the neighborhoods. You want to keep them in the quarantine hotel, and that's the way it should be set up, but it's not, and that's a problem. Anytime you introduce that possibility of a foreigner coming into the neighborhood with COVID, that's a risk for the neighborhood, because they're going to the grocery store, they're going to the gas station, they're going all over the place.
Has talk been circulating that soon when money start running out, what's the next plan of attack when the monies do start to run out, when we will no longer have the availability of the National Guard, and everything will be on the shoulders of local law enforcement of each county? Are they already in talks about it to address that?
I've heard nothing, and that's kind of scary. It's very scary. I think that the governor is hoping that he's going to have an ally in the White House, and he thinks that's going to save them. But I wouldn't hold out any kind of hope on anything, because you have no idea what's going to happen next.
Yes.
Well,
you can't
exactly.
You can't count on any allies anywhere. You got to count on yourself, right?
Yep, exactly.
There's only so much money to go around, whether it's federal money, state money, or local county money. And there's only so much to go around, and everybody's kind of in the same boat. And we as a island state is gonna be in trouble. I mean, we are, and we better start preparing, because we know one thing: COVID is not going to go away at the end of December.
No.
COVID is not going to go away in 2020. It's going to be here. And, people can talk about the vaccine all they want. It's going to take us a very long time to get that vaccine here and at a level where the herd immunity is actually working. It's going to be a while, and COVID's still going to be here. And people are still going to be getting sick. And, this is where when I talk about the root of the problem, that's how you fix it, right? And you talked about this, Angela, so many times, that why is it so damn hard for every single airline, every single tour operator, every single travel agent, every single person that are making arrangements, Expedia, Kayak, all of these things, inform their traveler that once you land in Hawaii, you are required to wear a mask anytime you're outdoors with your or inside with your family. That has to be told to every single passenger in a method or in a way that we know that they were informed. Not put it on the placard in the damn seat back pocket, not put it on the little red streaming thing on the website. No, they need to acknowledge, do you agree to the terms and conditions, before you book your flight? They need to add that in, that little block that says, do you acknowledge that in Hawaii you are required to wear a mask?
Yep.
And put the rules. They check the box, we got acknowledgement, then it's done. Why is there no one? They don't want to do that because it's gonna discourage people from coming.
Well,
that's why they don't do it.
I am now of the belief, after all that our members have gone through with trying to educate visitors on masks and wearing the mask and handing the mask out and getting the bird, getting flipped off and all that stuff. We don't want those kind of visitors here. Back in the day, you saved your life. You took your life savings to come to Hawaii, and it was a very special thing to come here. And now it's cheap. It's I hate to say this, and somebody was kind of angry at me for saying this, but it's the people of Walmart. It's the cheap people who don't care. The ones who throw the cigarette butts out of the car, the ones who leave their trash on the side of the road. It's those kinds of people who don't want to wear the mask, who don't care about our native population, our indigenous people. They don't care about that. The Japanese, they spend money, they're respectful, they care. That the people that can spend the money to come here and can be respectful, maybe they should be the ones to come here. Because right now they've cheapened our place. They've cheapened Hawaii. They've made it so cheap and so easy for people to come and so easy to be disrespectful. They're not interested in our culture. They're not interested in what we have to say. They just want to sit on a warm beach with their drink in their hand and take selfies,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's exactly.
Yeah, very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. And, like I said, the numbers won't lie. I mean, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see some high numbers. And then the Halloween numbers will kick in. And then we're coming up on Christmas. And the what?
The voting.
And the voting?
The voting line. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's another one. I mean, it's just not going to help. And in the meantime, more and more people coming in that may be carrying that virus. So it's a perfect storm. It's everything coming together at once and colliding. And then you get the flu season as well. It's not good. It's I just don't see the level of concern that I would hope from our governor. I haven't heard from the governor actually. Today, aside from thanking everybody under the sun for this new lab, I haven't heard much discussion from him. And from Caldwell, really only about tier 3, but we have not been kept in the loop as far as the cases, where are these clusters, we just haven't. And I think they hope every night when they go to sleep, I think they hope when they wake up, the numbers will be down to 20 or 30. And I don't think that's going to happen. And then we're going to have a battle in our hands, and we better be prepared for it.
You don't get rid of COVID on a wing and a prayer.
That's for sure.
Yep.
I mean, that's the way they're doing it right now. It's just, it's not good. You've got Halloween. So right now you have a spike from pre-Halloween when we opened. That's what we're seeing right now is the opening.
Exactly.
And then you've got probably 3. Wow, in 2.5 weeks, we're just going to be full of COVID cases. My prediction is if people are working from home and a small number of people wear masks and we're social distancing as we are now, influenza isn't as, easy to catch as COVID is. And I think we may see flu season disappear this year and COVID will get worse because people have let down their guard. And that's going to be right over the holidays. Everybody's going to be on lockdown during the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
That's the unfortunate reality, in my opinion. I think you're right. I agree with you. And it's going to be unfortunate. But you know what? We just got to wait and see. Hopefully, we're all wrong. Hopefully, all of the experts are wrong. So what's in store for the Quarantine Breakers now? We've made the plea for funding for your organization. A lot of people have made that plea. We're hoping that someone would listen, especially from our legislature and from our administration, that would somehow send an allocation your way of CARES money so we could get you, properly outfitted and equipped. But I'm assuming that has not happened.
Nope. But there's a lot of good things that have happened. To me, it's amazing that John DeFreeze even answered his email, and that he was willing to meet with us. And to have the backing of Dr. DeWolf Miller, he believes in what we do. He believes that quarantine is really important, and he's supported me on every initiative. And so whenever I have issues and I think we're not getting anywhere, he always puts in a good word for us. There's no question in my mind. Everybody, all the way up to the governor, knows that we exist and knows what we do, thanks to the praises of you guys, Dr. Miller, and many others. And some good things have happened. HPD is now starting, when the police commission starts talking about helping with quarantine on Oahu, to me, that is like, wow, how did that happen? It's all because of the work that we're all doing and speaking up, it's good, but we have so much more work to do.
I got one last question before we call it a night. I know you work a lot with Dr. DeWolf Miller, and he did assure me that he would come back on once he gets the information from the study that he's doing with these tests. It was announced today that the Big Island is going to do away with the daily test, and they're going to go to a 20% arrival surveillance testing. Are you privy to talk about that at all? I mean, it was on the news that in fact they were going to.
And that's really the way he works in all of his epidemiology studies. There's a formula. And the formula isn't just the random testing. The formula is also a questionnaire that the traveler has to answer when they arrive. And he worked tirelessly to get ETS. That's the State Department that built the platform. It's not an app, it's a platform, the digital platform that puts the paperwork in, right, with Safe Travels. Dr. D has this formula, and he says it works 100%, and it has to do with how they answer those questions in that questionnaire, where they've been, how they feel, whether they have a fever, these different methodical questions. And he says it works. And when they combine that with the 20% testing, they are actually able to find these people who would be positive. And he's right 99% of the time. How the formula works, I'm not a mathematician. I don't know. And what I'm guessing is they're starting to move that direction so that they can expand the testing within the community, because they know that there's community spread happening and people are requesting testing. So that's why I think it's happening. That's the Angela theory.
The problem is the 20% will be voluntary, correct?
As far as I know.
I do not see any difference between the people landing in Kona and the people landing on Kauai, and we are seeing a 2% success rate. 2% of the visitors are taking that second test, and that was my fear. Once you get away from the testing, and that testing wasn't very accurate anyway on the Big Island. I mean, we saw that 9 went to 0 in a few days. So, but to get these visitors to come back and take a second test, as it has been proven on Kauai, just simply doesn't work, and that is my fear. So, I mean, the questionnaire
Yeah,
part, that's a good thing.
That is his fear too, and I don't know how they're working on it, because he says normally they just pick them according to, I can't say too much, but they pick them and they know how to pick them, and then they just say, hey, you got to take this test, and they can say, no, I'm not, but most times there's no mention of, whether they can or they can't. I don't know. We'll see. I shouldn't say too much. I'll get myself into trouble, but there is a formula. I just hope it works. I hope they do the right thing, and I hope they listen to him.
I hope so too, for the sake of all of us. Big Island's kind of spiking again, and it's, until we get a handle of it, until we isolate the virus, that's what's going to happen forever. We'll never get rid of it until
we'll never get.
Yeah. So anyway.
And people have to know that it's the mask wearing. And hey, if this is what you believe, and you believe, for all of you out there listening, if you believe in this testing, write your mayor, write the authorities, write city, county, state leaders, tell them you want more testing. We've kind of slid back on letter writing, emails, and I think maybe that's another initiative that we need to do to remind our leadership that testing needs to be there for locals, and I hear it day in and day out. So,
well, it's available now for Honolulu. It will be for $135 a pop. Whatever. Anyway,
it should be free.
Absolutely, it should be free. Well,
and I think the other thing we need to push for is being able to identify the zip codes where we see spikes. That should really be key.
As time goes on, we're seeing less and less transparency, and I think that is concerning, or it should be concerning to everyone. They're getting away with providing less information to the public. So we just, it is what it is. Anyway, any closing thoughts, Angela, before we let you go?
Not that I can think of. Thanks for all of your support and lobbying for Kapu Breakers. I really appreciate it. I really do.
Charlie?
No, thank you, Angela, for being on tonight. Appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. No?
Angela, stay safe up there. Keep up the good work. We appreciate you and your entire group. I see now you have a little store going where you can buy some shirts and stuff.
Yes. For those of you who are not members of our group, we do have a public page, and on the public page you can see, if you scroll through, you can see information about our store. So we have logo items, everything that you can imagine under the sun except for flags. We don't have flags. I asked for them because somebody wanted a flag. But, no aloha, no mask, no aloha, wear a mask, live aloha. And then we also have, thank goodness, Luann Teo from Maui, who's one of our team leads there. She has a relative who helped recreate the Kapu Breakers red. It's basically a tattoo cutout, indigenous cutout from the flag. It's got the red, white, and blue stripes. If you see our Facebook group, that's that design. We now have it made for t-shirts. So for those who are very traditionalist, they can get the Kapu Breaker t-shirts, and 100% goes back into funding all the work that we do, everything from the Facebook group to the lobbying to all the time that we spend, my internet bill, my Wi-Fi, all the graphics that we do to create things, all the time that I spend volunteering, as well as the rest of the team. And it just goes right back in to help keep us going.
Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers public page. If you guys are asking, just search that in Facebook, get to the page, buy a shirt, buy a couple shirts, make great gifts. It's Christmas coming up. I mean, You can send these
We
things
have
away.
stickers, magnets, anything you can imagine. Yeah.
So that's one way we can help Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers. Do that tonight. Everybody get out there, and I think I'm going to go buy me a couple of shirts. This one is kind of outliving its purpose. It seems like I thought this was going to reduce the number of okole-pukas we had in Hawaii. It's actually increased. So maybe we'll get the no mask, no aloha. I think I like that one. I saw the shirt. It's beautiful. So anyway, Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers public page. Thank you, Angela. Charlie, thank you. Go get some rest, Charlie. We'll see you guys tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. You guys stay safe. God bless. We love each and every one of you guys. Aloha.